Well, thank you for being here. This is Sonia, and we are gathering here at the New Earth Cooperative. And I'm really wanting to change up this meeting. I really feel like it's so important for us to have a sense of community and support for what's going on in our individual experiences here on the planet, for what's going here on just the incredible things that are happening in our lives. And I know for myself, I've always felt more at peace with myself when I had a community to relate to. I wanted to talk a little bit about Ascension Apathy today, and my experience with Ascension Apathy has been around wanting to explore my spiritual life, and yet uh, there's resistance. There's levels of resistance that would come up in my practices that would really prevent me from going where I needed to go. So for those of you who, well, some of you don't know me on the call, but I've had started my path about over 45 years ago after a drug overdose. And that experience was the wake-up call for me to begin to figure out what the hell was going on in my life. I knew something was wrong. I had emotional problems growing up in a family of abuse and molestation, and I didn't know how to get out of the self-made prison that I felt I was in. And so when I actually started my spiritual work, I was grateful for that, for the experience in my meditations, because as a child, my way of escaping my life situation was to be in the land of dreams and fantasy. And so when I started the spiritual path, working on the inner was something that I was used to being. I was used to hanging out on the inner all the time. So I was very comfortable with that. And I would spend long hours in meditation and doing my spiritual practices and reading and opening myself up to new thought forms and ways of being. And yet the very thing, the things that I was really needing to access, I was avoiding. I thought I was doing the work, but come to find out that there was so much more that I needed to do. It's not that I wasn't doing the work, but there was way more that needed to be done. And so I describe that as my apathy in not truly going where I needed to go, and kind of deluding myself in certain forms of avoidance. And so I would get feelings of, well, I've been on this path for, so long. Why haven't I progressed further than I have? Why am I still dealing with the same issues over and over again? And for me, it's been around health issues. I discovered as a young age that being sick was a good way to get love and attention, because I wasn't getting it in the home. And so I developed illness after illness throughout my life, to the point that I contracted a life-threatening disease and came close to death in 2012, and decided that, if I didn't change this pattern in my life, that I was going to end up just recreating something else. So, I prayed to Mother Sophia and asked her to help me, and that's really when the Christ Code started coming in. And so what I discovered in my journey is that we're basically computers walking around. we're walking computers with television screens on our heads, and we live in a quantum universe where everything that we do is outpictured in front of us as a hologram, and yet we experience it as a physical reality. I mean, we feel pain. We cut our fingers and whatever, and this is real. I mean, we're here in a holographic universe having a physical experience, and yet I discovered that what I am projecting out onto my screen is being created by me. So the patterns of uh, I call them Trojan horses. These viral programs that have been implanted into our program have taken over. For me, it was programs of looking at myself as not being whole, not being healthy. So we're basically having a physical experience. So we have our physical body, we have our emotional body, and we have our mental body. And the physical body itself is a direct relationship of our emotional presence. So the body itself is the past. It's the past being expressed from the present moment that we are experiencing, and we experience our presence through our feeling body, through our hearts. And so when we're in our heads, which is what we tend to do, we're projecting out into the future. And so we kind of play back and forth between the past and the future, and we don't really lock into the presence of our feelings and what's truly happening for us in the moment. And so I discovered through my spiritual practices that, and actually working with the Christ codes, that I have all this information that is coming in to me every moment, and I have a choice to either relate to it or not relate to it. So I hope everyone can hear me well. It says my connection is unstable. So as we're uh, on our journey, this intent, we're intensifying, these energies are intensifying what we're experiencing. And it can feel overwhelming, right? And so we need to have a system that is going to really help us lock into the communication that's happening on a moment by moment basis. And so that's basically what the Christ codes are here to do. It's a blueprint that is tuned into not only our 12 chakra systems, but it's also tuned into the uh, universal blueprint that is within our quantum field, that is embedded. It's like, so we have that program, right? We're like walking computers with these programs, and we have a blueprint that is downloaded into our bodies and into our DNA, and then we have the 3D program that's overlaying and on top of it. And so the energies that are coming in from the planets and from the stars and from the sun are activating those 12 atoms. So we have the 12 physical atoms and the 12 mental atoms, and they're being activated. And as they're activated, the energy that has not been dealt with is rising up to the surface and coming up into our consciousness. And if we don't have a system to work with that energetic, then it starts building up, and that's when people start freaking out. And that's why we have people going out and shooting people, or kids committing suicide. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to process all this energy that is coming up, and it's increasing. It's like every year, this ascension cycle is bringing a more energy for us to deal with, and if we're not dealing with these issues, then, like I said, it gets overwhelming. So let's see where I want to go from here. So I wanted to share a dream I had, because as I was working with the Christ codes this last month, trying to get them online for you, I was being activated big time, because I was working with the codes every day, because that's what they're designed to do. They're designed to bring up to the surface, what it is that I'm that needs healing in me. So I received this dream that gave me a perfect example of what I'm trying to share with you today. And in the dream, I was it was a staged set. but it looked like I was on the ocean, and yet it had a wood it had 12 stairs coming out of the ocean and a wood platform on the far side of the stage. And then on the stage closest to me was a wood dock, a long wood dock, where there was a big ferry filled with people. And as I'm watching this dream now as an observer, this huge white plane comes in, kind of like the planes that fly over the Rose Bowl, um, or the Rose Parade. You know, those big fighter planes that are like these A-shaped. Anyway, this came flying into my dream, and it was like huge, and it was just came right over the boat, and it was just hovering and came down onto the water. And then another ship, another plane that was red, came in and landed on the water. And then there was a helicopter that landed, huge helicopter, and it was filled with what do you call those people? Um, Special forces people. and and then someone from the ferry jumped off of the ferry and somehow got himself on top of the helicopter, and then it crashed into the water. And so all these people were progressively getting into the water and going to the 12 stairs, and then going off into this platform where there was this big line of people with trays and trays of tables of food and celebration. For it was like a celebration that was happening. And so, and just to backtrack with some of the symbology, the ocean represents the origins of life. So I was having a dream about the origins of my life as a soul, and all these parts of myself, all these different life streams were landing. Now, spiritual planes are like higher etheric body transportation. So I had these other parts of myself landing, coming in for a landing, and we're all congregating together. And so I personally have been working on assimilating all my life streams, because I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but when we were born as souls, we came in not only in this one form, but we came in multiple forms. Within the quantum universe, we are having multiple experiences in parallel realities. And so in the ascension process, you want to coalesce all those all that consciousness within the other life streams into this one. You want to actually embody all of you in one body so that you can ascend. So I have been actively working on in the quantum fields and in my inner work when I'm working with the codes, to call in those aspects of myself to unify with me, unify with my consciousness, and I'm claiming the mastery from those live streams as well. And for any energy that has not been dealt with, then I'm calling that in so that I can trans-energize that energy as well. So in this dream, everyone's coming in and landing and moving into the ocean, which is the connecting with the origins of our life as one soul, oversoul, one consciousness. And so it was funny because when we got in the water, it was staged to look like it was the ocean, but it actually had a cement floor. And I was my divine self was directing the whole thing and saying, "You guys need to look like you're bobbing in the water because we're filming this." And then once everyone was gathered and we had our celebration trays, because this was like a victory for all of us to come together now, the scene changed and it became a room. And in the room there were 12 individuals, and not necessarily individuals, but there were 12 beings in the room who were representatives of all those other life streams. So this, in a sense, correlates to our 12 chakra systems, because each chakra system has a physical embodiment that's connected to it on a multidimensional level of ourselves. And I personally have been able to connect to some of those live streams, and so I can tell you that it's true. But anyway, so I'm I'm watching this scene where all these people are sitting on a sofa and are gathered around this room, and there's a throne chair in the corner, and they're all vying for uh, they're all trying to get to the throne chair. So the throne chair would represent your divine self, your that would be your immortality gene, basically. That is that holds the crown. You know, the what do you call it? The seventh chakra is your like your crown center, which opens you up to the galaxy gate, to the universe. And so, you know, that's something that we're trying to achieve when we're ascending. We want to get to that throne chair. We want to sit in the throne and be the directors of ourselves, um, as one consciousness, right? So so in the dream, the male, what I would call my divine masculine, was uh, vying for the throne seat, as at the same time the divine feminine was going towards it. And she, by the way, was represented as a hoop, and the other people were all strategically trying to get to the throne. And when they finally arrived, it was the divine feminine and the divine masculine arrived together. And when they went to claim the key, which was what they were all seeking, this key, uh, it turns out that the divine self, had taken the key while they were maneuvering, and I had it. I was the one who decides when we ascend, when we all ascend. So, what the dream was telling me was basically confirming that I had finished my work at that level, and that I needed to make an effort now to be able to ascend. That's the last step for me. Now that I've congregated everybody together, then now I need to work even harder to start blending these energies within myself. So I'm sharing this because I feel like uh, it would give you a better understanding of your own personal journey. We're all doing this individually. We all need to do this, and so that's what the Christ codes can do. They can basically speak to these different energetics within your universal blueprint and help open up those atoms so that you can activate yourself and become a fully embodied divine being, um, which is your core blueprint. That's the core blueprint in your motherboard system that I was speaking about earlier. And so we have this third dimensional overlay that is uh, is the is the television screen that we are living through, right? So, and then I had a second dream that actually was demonstrating that. I was excited about this picture about having our heads being a television screen, and I had a dream about it, and I was telling my husband Bennett about it. And in the dream, I'm showing him the television screen, and as I'm talking about it, I I actually projected myself out of the screen as a cow, and he projected out of his screen as a cow. So I mean, this might sound fantastic to you, but you know, I'm a dreamer, and I get a lot of information and guidance from my dreams because our dreams are really connected to our soul. That's how our soul communicates to us every night, through our dreams. The soul also communicates to us through synchronistic events. And so we're constantly being communicated to every day. And so when we unplug from the third dimensional system, which is really the illusion that is keeping us from truly connecting to our divinity, um, then okay, so there's a paradox that's happening here. Um, to the paradox is that you you want to unplug from the third dimensional reality, but you don't want to divorce yourself from it. So, how do I say this? Uh, you have to really embrace the body that you're in. before you can ascend anywhere. And to embrace it is really to become present, be the presence. That's what the present is. The presence is the present, right? It's really about experiencing yourself in the moment as an emotional being, and having the freedom to express yourself in whatever ways that you want to express yourself. And unfortunately, we live in a society where we're told that we're free, that we have freedom, but we really don't. We we have all these things that we have to do. We have to have licenses for everything that we want to do. We're basically building a new body, a new fifth dimensional body, and our third dimensional reality is basically dissolving. There, within this energetic cycle that I was talking about, there is a destroying archetype, and the destroying archetype always comes in the end of a cycle that we're in right now. We're getting ready to ascend into a new way of being, a new earth, and so the old earth is in a disintegration process, and we're basically, our third dimensional reality is disintegrating, and we are building bridges, you might say, to the fifth dimension. And so we can't really help that part that is dissolving, and if we get ourselves trapped in the dissolution process, which is pretty much where everyone is right now, then you miss the opportunity to be present with what's happening with you and what you need to accomplish to build those bridges to the fifth dimension. And so, what the power that we do have, though, is every time, because we live in a quantum reality, every time we heal something within us, we're healing it for the world as well. Not only for the world, but for the universe. We're all part of one body, right? So if we focus on the problem, all we're doing is creating more problems, because we're just, wherever we put our attention, we are actually drawing more attention into it. So if we're focusing on the problems, then all we're doing is creating more problems, right? So if we start focusing on healing ourselves, now I say focus on the problem, I mean, focusing on like the politics and all the things that are disintegrating within our third dimensional reality. If we start focusing on all of that kind of stuff, we're going to miss the boat. We're going to miss the true gift that's present here. And it's not that we're disconnecting ourselves from what's going on the planet, but we're doing it by taking care of ourselves first. And then as we become connected to what we're truly here to do, what is our true mission, our true soul mission here on the planet? Well, my true soul mission was and is the Christ codes. So I'm completely devoted to getting this work out so that more people can use this system and prepare for ascension. That's what I came here to do. If I start focusing all my energy on the politics and this and that, and I'll never get done what I came here to do. And so what the codes can help you do is get clear on the picture of why you're here. What is your soul mission? What is your blueprint? What is the underlying blueprint? Because we each have our core divinity blueprint, right? Our immortality gene. And then we have a soul blueprint that is overlaid on top of that, which is a symbiotic relationship with the core blueprint. And then we are born into this third dimensional blueprint as a way for us to have a physical container or a vehicle to experience reality, to experience our divinity, to to test out our co-creative powers, and learn how to um, manage them, right? Because power can be wicked. I mean, if you start abusing power, which I have done in many live streams, I was shown that part of my work here in this time is to help heal abuse of the will. That was something that I've been working out as a soul in multidimensional live streams. We're given power as a divine being with all our creative powers, and we are learning how to wield that power with grace, with compassion, with heart. And as you can see on the planet, not everyone is wielding their power that way. They're abusing their power. And so, we have this place, this safe container on the earth where we can try out our little God selves without destroying the universe in the process. But anyway, but what I'm trying to say is that when we start waking up to who we are and what our true mission is, then we can start affecting the third dimensional reality by building the bridges. We're building bridges to the fifth dimension, but as we heal ourselves, we're actually healing the world. And so we're making the world a better place by not focusing, quote unquote, on the chaos, but focusing on what needs to be healed within us. So I hope that is clear. It finally came out of me. Thank you for your patience. And so I would like to, at this point, let's see, where are we? We're 4:15 almost. I would like to take us into maybe a quantum journey so that we can maybe heal something in the field. So let me just see what is what I'm being guided to do at this point. Oh, okay. So, all right. So when we're working with energy, it's important to identify the energy. We don't have to relive the moment, but there's memories that we have within us that are the core wound to a bunch of tentacles that are connected to the core. So let's say you have a wound that you experienced as a child, and because of that wound, you have all these traumatic or off balance energies that are connected to it. And there might be hundreds, thousands of energy strings connected to that one core issue that you've been, as on your spiritual path, you've been running into, right? And so that's how the thing of the feeling of like, oh my God, I'm still dealing with this energy. It's happening again. When am I ever going to be done with this? And it's because we're like an onion. We have these layers and layers and layers of trauma connected to the source trauma point. And so what is really important to do is to when you're working with yourself, for instance, I have issues with control. Because of being raised in an abusive environment and suffering from molestation, I like to know that I'm in control of my life. And so this energy comes up for me a lot. And so I was working with the codes this month, and I'm going, okay, what is the core issue? What is the core issue around control for me? So realizing that I'm a multidimensional being, I'm going to have these issues in multidimensional live streams. So I'm going to say, so I said, okay, I just want to know what the core issue is for this life. What is my core issue around control? And the memory that came in for me was being potty trained. And my mother didn't change my diaper, and so my way of dealing with it was to take my poop out of my diaper and I stuck it on my head. And so she didn't like that, and so she told me that to punish me, she made me eat it. And so I realized that that was probably the core issue, because I was asking about what is my core issue around control issues. It was happened during that phase of my life. And uh, so I want to place us in a circle of light right now, and I'd like for each one of you to uh, just center into your heart space and make sure your feet are grounded on the earth, and take a few deep breaths through your nose only. And I'd like you to connect to the beat of your heart as your breath. There's a rhythm with the breath. And when you pay really close attention and drop down into your heart, you're going to notice that the heartbeat and the breath have a synchronization. So I want you to connect, I want you to sync up with your breath with your heartbeat. And if you can't feel your heartbeat, then place your right or left hand. I like to place the left hand on the heart, the right hand over it. And just feel your breath. All right. Now we're going to call in our divine self and just see it as a stream of water flowing into your crown, through your third eye, down your throat, and falling into the sacred chalice of your heart. And as it arrives, it's going to overflow and go down your rest of your chakra system, your solar, sacral, and root chakras, and just let it flow down into Mother Earth. And we're going to anchor in with Mother Earth right now. And let's go to the crystal core center of Mother Earth and just really feel yourself anchor into her energy. Feel her support around us right now. Okay. And then they're going to bring our attention back to our heart space. And we have a connection now from as above, so below, established through our heart. And now we have a star tetrahedron, our Merkaba, that is in the center of our heart. That is a sacred atom that is expanding and encompassing your field of light. Just allow yourself to sit inside of your Merkaba star. And just let her spin any direction she may want to go, he or she, wherever you want to. The star Merkaba is really the divine feminine and the divine masculine coming together. And when we're working with the Christ codes, when we come into unification, the star tetrahedron actually turns into a diamond. And so we're going to call in to the circle for each one of us right now. What is your core issue? Let's work with control, since I brought it up. What is your control issue for you in your life? What is the source of it? Let's call it into our sacred circle. And I'm asking the Ascended Master team that works with the Christ codes and the galactic archangels to please surround us in a field of light as we are working here today. And I'm also calling in the violet flame as a vortex above each one of our heads. and just be present with whatever feeling or vision or whatever comes in. What is your core issue? And let's just be silent now while you can check in for yourself. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to have a conversation with this energy. And the first question is, are you ready to let go of this energetic in your life? And just listen for the response. Okay. If you hear a yes, excellent. Is there anyone that is hearing a no? If you're hearing a no, I would like you can put something in the chat to me. Okay, Karen hears a no. Okay. All right, Karen. We are going to now address Karen's no. Okay, so Karen doesn't want to work with this live, but we will work with it as a group because this will be good for everyone anyway. Okay, so when you get a no response from an energetic, what you want to do next is ask it why. And we're all here holding the field for Karen to support her in this work today. So Karen is not wanting to share what her no answer is. All right, so what you need to do when you get a no is you need to have that conversation with the energy. When you find out why, so I'll speak now from my experience of hearing no. I worked for many years to heal my inner child, to have a conversation with my inner child because she wanted to kill me. She wanted to die. And she was the one who was basically running the show for all my illnesses. And when I finally did connect with her, she looked like an 80, 90-year-old woman. She had gray hair. She was old and wrinkled. She was in a little girl's body. She looked like she walked, came straight out of the concentration camps. And she told me she wanted to die because I hadn't been taking care of her. So, I didn't know how to take care of her. My parents didn't know how to take care of me. They were adults in children's body raising me and my siblings, and they didn't have a clue how to really love me and take care of me and the emotional needs that I had. And so I didn't know how to take care of her either. And so I realized that if we were going to heal one another, if I was going to heal this energetic, that I was going to have to become the parent for the parts of myself that were unhappy, that were not working with my divine self. Because we need to have all these parts of ourselves start working with one another so that they'll work in cooperation. And some of these parts don't want to do it. So when I actually sat down and called in my inner child and all these different levels of myself, we have etheric cycles of development. So from 1 to 7 is one etheric cycle. And so I was calling in these growth processes for my inner child, for my 7-year-old, my 14-year-old, my 21-year-old, etc., calling them all into my circle and asking them if they were ready and willing to let the divine self, the one who really knows what to do and run the show, if they were willing to work with me and the divine self. And the resounding answer was, hell no. Hell no, because you haven't taken care of me. You have been doing all this spiritual work and doing this and that, and no one's taking care of me. So why should I help you? You have not been there for me. And so I had to go in and have a conversation with these parts of myself saying, well, listen, if you do this, then this is going to create this, and this is what's making you unhappy. So I can't play this out for you. I don't know what your situation is, but basically you have to take the mature part of yourself and talk to the child part of yourself, and get them to start cooperating. And basically, the one who is holds it all out is the ego. The ego is the one that is there to protect you. And it thinks that it's protecting you by putting all these little mechanisms into play that it has had to do to protect you as a youngster. And so, as an adult who is now more mature and can handle the situation, you need to really talk down the revolt that each one of these parts of yourself is acting out. Because what they do is they just take over any situation that you're in when you least expect it, and they start having a meltdown, a temper tantrum, whatever it happens to be. The ego just jumps out there and starts, getting all mightier than thou, and stealing the show, and not allowing you to have the experience that you're wanting, because these unruly parts of yourself are still in control. So you need to have that conversation. And sometimes the energy, sometimes you're ready to move away from the energy. If you're a resounding yes, but the answer is no. So what happens is sometimes these energies become entitized, and they have been traveling with us for eons of time, and that's all they know. All they know is that relationship with you, and they don't like change, just like we don't like change for the most part. We're afraid of change, but change is really the vehicle that is going to move us into the next level of progression that we're seeking. So, um, hmm. so when you get a resounding no from an entitized energy, which is different from basically the parts of yourself. You can't divorce the parts of yourself. They are there. You have to work through them. You have to continue to have those conversations until they will begin to work with you. Sometimes you have to do negotiations with them. I've had to negotiate with my ego to give me 1% or 5%, a little leeway, so that I have more of an opportunity to work with my divine self rather than the ego always taking over. So I've had these conversations, and I'm like, okay, we can see that doing your way hasn't worked. It's caused this problem and this problem and this problem and this problem. And you can name the problems that they've caused in your life, right? And the reason you don't want to work with me is because you're complaining how much you're suffering, and yet you're the one that's creating all this suffering. So why don't you give me 5% of the control, or the day, give me half the day, give me an hour, and we can try out the divine self running the show, and we'll see what happens. If you don't like it, then we'll renegotiate, okay? So, so you got to kind of have that conversation and keep working with these parts of yourself until they finally begin to cooperate. And it doesn't happen overnight, because they have a lot of feelings that have not been addressed. So working with the codes is going to help raise them to the surface so that you can start identifying the energetic, asking what the core energetic is, and then once you're able to heal that energy, you are effectively healing all the cords attached to it. So that's where the quantum work really comes in, um, because we are quantum beings. When we heal it at the source, all the tentacles are healed from that point. So that's how I love those movies where they come back from the future to heal the past. That's basically what we're doing. We're connecting to our divinity, which is an infinite being, and moving back into the past, which is the physical, and working something out that is going to negotiate a healing. So we're becoming ambassadors of healing for our own selves, basically. And once we heal that, then we are healing the past and the future through the presence. So that's the key. So um, let me go back to the meditation now. So for those of you who get a yes, what you do now is, okay, you thank the energy for all the ways that it served you. You are complete. You ask the energy, do you feel complete? And if the energy feels complete, then you thank it and you bless it and you send it off to the universal chalice of love, which is Sophia Source, so it can be repurposed to experience creation in a higher level of consciousness. And you're free at that point to experience yourself at a higher level of consciousness. So you both are freed from that entanglement. It's called quantum entanglement, and you're able to move on. And then the other thing about that is that um, because we have, once we clear an energy, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're done with it, in the sense that we have a habit around it, and we have these habits that have formed from being used to having to relate to ourselves this way. And so even though we've cleared an energy, we might habitually think the same way or act out things the same way. So you're going to have to reprogram yourself basically to start acting in a new way. And again, the Christ codes can help you with that, because the Christ codes are uh, cut the cords. They help you cut those energetic cords and give you a spiritual buoyancy that helps you see beyond the limitations that you've come out of, and have a more receptive attitude and presence for what is coming into your life that's new, something, because every time we release something, the universe responds to it and delivers new experiences for us. um, and so when we're receptive to trying out new things, when we let go of the old things, then and embrace that with grace, then things happen very smoothly. But when we meet it with resistance, then there's these cycles of energy that are coming in, have to force the energy is now forcing its way into your body, um, and it becomes painful at that point. So that's why we experience so much pain, because we are unconsciously resisting the forward movement. We're being asked to move faster and faster, and to let go of the past, to let go of the conditions that we've created in our physical bodies, and to be open to a new way of being. So once you negotiate and clear that energy, then you just give gratitude and close your circle, close your healing circle. Always do your healing in a protected circle of light. And I always call in the violet flame as the transmuting vortex of energy for it to take the energy away. And if you have, like I said, if you have an entitized being that you're working with, you can, and it refuses to change, but you are complete with that energy. You pronounce to the universe, I am complete, and I'm asking the ascended masters or the archangels or whoever you're working with to take this energy to a twilight state where it can uh, play out its existence separate from you until it's ready to return to the light. And that way you are cutting the cords, cutting your relationship with it, so that you can move on and it can have its lesson outside of you in another experience. And a lot of energies are uh, placed in twilight states until they're ready to move past the laggard state of consciousness that they're in. And so uh, that is my message here for you today. If you have any questions, I'm open to receiving questions right now. Uh, if you have a question, just tell me in the chat if you have a question. Okay. Okay, and Karen is thanking me for helping her with this resistance. Karen, let me tell you, it's really worth the effort to keep plugging away with these parts of yourself. They eventually will come into balance and start cooperating with you. My little girl used to come in having a tantrum and crying and carrying on because even though I knew I needed to take care of her, I wasn't taking care of her. You know, and now when she comes in, she's just in joy. She's jumping around and having a good time. So it took a while for us to mend that relationship, but you need to once you make that connection, you need to keep at it, keep working with those parts of yourself. Pick one at a time, and just keep working with it. And then once you get that healed, then bring in the next part of yourself that is needing healing. So I am not seeing any questions in the chat, so I want to thank everyone for being here today. I'm hoping that next month we can have more active participation. I'm wanting to support you in being able to share your experiences. You're welcome, Karen. And I am working to get the next layer of the Christ codes out on the christcodes.org website, and I'll be announcing when I finally get the rest of the seed sounds of creation, which are a really important next level step for the Christ codes, because it's a three level system, and I'll be putting out. I'm looking at doing a subscription service where we can come together and work in a group, and where I can support you working with the Christ codes, support you in your process, because this is not something that you want to do alone, basically. And me and my husband work I'm up 3 or 4 times a week together, supporting our process, supporting our challenges, because sometimes I'm resisting something and he can help on the other end of it. He can hear better what I'm needing to deal with because I'm having resistance to it. So it's, when we're working and supporting and being together in community, it just lightens the load, and it helps establish a place for us to come together and become a family. We're a family, and so I want to thank you all for your patience today, for my stumbling around earlier in the call, and I hope you will come back next month and stay tuned for further information about when I'm going to launch the next aspects of the course. So have a blessed day, and see you next month.